In the world we live in today, scientists believe there could potentially be, get this, 11 dimensions. And most of us can really only wrap our heads around, like, the first 3. So what in the world is actually going on in these 11 dimensions? Let's take a little trip together, starting from dimension 1, all the way up to dimension 11. Ready to stretch your mind a bit? Stick around and let's dive in. First up, dimension number 1. That's just a point. Think about it. This point has no size, no volume, no time. It's got nothing, really. It's just a concept. As far as we know, there are no living beings in that first dimension. Next, dimension 2D. Picture a line. This line only has length, no width or depth. If a creature lived here, well, it could only move forward or backward. That's it. Now, dimension 3D. This is our environment. It has length, width, and depth, where all objects actually take up space. Imagine if a creature lived in a two-dimensional world. It could only perceive things as lines, just slices of its space. So if a 3D sphere passed through that 2D space, that creature would just see a series of circles changing size. It would be seeing cross-sections of the sphere over time. We live in a three-dimensional world, length, width, and depth. This is the physical space we're all familiar with, right? It's where every object has shape and size in 3 dimensions. Basically, you can imagine 3D space as an infinite stack of 2D planes. Kinda like the pages that make up a book. All living things on Earth, even tiny ants, are 3-dimensional. Even though, they mostly move around on flat surfaces. Now, what if we add time to those 3 spatial dimensions? Then we get the 4th dimension, what Einstein famously called space-time. What this means is, any object you see in reality, even if you're just seeing it at a single moment, is actually just one slice of its entire existence. Think about a creature living in the 4th dimension. It wouldn't just see you right now in the present. It would see your entire existence from the moment you were born until you disappear. It's kind of like how we see a whole line in 2D space. A 4D creature would see your whole world line stretching out through space-time. For us humans, the concept of this 4th dimension, well, it's beyond our direct perception. But theoretically, it's the key to really understanding the true nature of the universe more deeply. Can you even imagine seeing someone's entire life, all at once? It's wild. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Okay, so what changes when we step into the world of 5 dimensions? In the 4th dimension, remember, we experience time as that single flow, from past to future, no turning back. But in the 5th dimension, things get way more interesting. Instead of just one timeline, you've got a space where different choices coexist. Picture this. What if you hadn't chosen your current path? What if, instead, you became a teacher? Or maybe a lawyer? Or what about a social media star? Well, all those versions of you could potentially exist in parallel. Each one is like a different branch of time. Yeah, that's how 5-dimensional space is often imagined. A place where all possible versions of a life can exist simultaneously. And if 5D is where you see parallel versions of yourself from the same starting point, then 6D, it expands that possibility to different starting points altogether. You wouldn't just see different outcomes of your life. You could envision every possible scenario that could happen from any initial condition. We're not just limited to a single universe anymore. Here, it's hypothesized that timelines could actually intersect. And if you had advanced enough technology, or perhaps a higher level of perception, a being could potentially move between these possibilities. It's like navigating through invisible turns in life itself. You could even imagine observing, or maybe even understanding how someone else's life plays out, but in a different timeline. Now, let's be clear. Don't get this twisted. This is purely theoretical stuff. There's absolutely no evidence yet that any of this is possible in reality. Anyway, just getting to the 6th dimension, and the brain is already feeling a little tight, right? If you are still keeping up with me here, seriously, drop a like right now. Give your brain a little boost. And now, we step into the 7th dimension. This is where the universe is just the beginning. In the 5th and 6th dimensions, we were still exploring different scenarios, but they were all happening within the same universe. They all shared one single starting point, the Big Bang. And no matter how different the timelines were in those dimensions, they all still revolved around our familiar laws of physics. But when you cross into the 7th dimension, everything changes completely. Now you're not just branching between different versions of a life. You are stepping across entirely different universes. And each one of these universes could have its own set of physical laws. A completely different way reality works. Imagine a place where the speed of light could be slower, Or gravity could be stronger. Or time might not even exist as we know it. If you imagine our universe as just one book, then the seventh dimension is the entire library of books. Books written in a million, maybe even a billion different ways. Okay, what about the eighth dimension? Take that library of universes. Now imagine each and every universe in that library could be rewritten from a new beginning. It's no longer just universes that popped into existence from the same model, like our Big Bang. In the eighth dimension, you're entering a space where every single scenario for forming a universe is possible. With every possible physical constant, every form of space-time structure, every single version of, well, everything. This is where not just a few, but countless paths of cosmic development are present at the same time. Some might look kind of familiar, a bit like our universe maybe. But many, many others could be so incredibly bizarre, you can't even begin to imagine them. And the cool thing? In the eighth dimension, these universes exist in parallel, but they can't actually touch each other. They're like dreams happening simultaneously, but they're in perfectly soundproof rooms. You can't interact directly. Want to interact? You'd have to go back to your own universe first. But then comes the ninth dimension. This is where that whole can't touch each other thing isn't a barrier anymore. The ninth dimension is where universes don't just coexist. They can actually influence each other. Here, the boundaries between one reality and another start to become blurry. Information, energy, or even physical laws themselves can pass through. They can interact. They can even transform when they collide in this higher space. And what about time? In the ninth dimension, time pretty much loses its traditional role. It's not a one-way flow anymore. It's more like a lake where different realities can ripple, they can reflect, and they can intertwine. You can imagine beings, if they exist, living in the ninth dimension. They wouldn't be limited by space, time, or matter like we are. They would have this comprehensive, multi-dimensional view, something that goes way beyond all our normal understanding. To us, they would probably look like gods. Okay, continuing this journey, we step into one of the highest levels of reality we talk about. The 10th spatial dimension. So if in the 9th dimension, universes can interact, then the 10th dimension is where every single possibility of every single universe is gathered into one single structure. Imagine it like this. Each universe is a book. In 8D and 9D, you might be able to read each book one by one, or maybe even let them affect each other. But in 10D, you are holding the entire library. Every single story, every outcome, every single way the laws of physics could possibly be rearranged. We're not just talking about universes that might be possible. We're talking about everything that can happen within every single existing system. Here, there's really no boundary between imagination and reality. Because if something can exist mathematically, then it belongs to the 10th dimension. And then the 11th spatial dimension. This is where everything really starts to connect. In modern physics, there's this theory called M theory. It was developed as a major leap forward from something called string theory. Now, before that, the scientific community actually had 5 different versions of string theory. Each one was mathematically beautiful, but nobody was sure which one was right. Then, back in the 1990s, a physicist named Edward Witten came up with a pretty bold idea. He essentially said, hey, what if all those theories are just slices of something bigger? Like a super theory? And that's how M theory was born. And it requires 11 dimensions to work, 10 spatial dimensions and 1 time dimension. In M theory, those little strings from string theory can now expand into things called membranes or brains. These are structures that don't just vibrate. They can actually create entire universes. It's like a gigantic blueprint for all matter, for gravity, and for space-time itself. So what is so special about this 11th dimension? Honestly, it's incredibly hard to imagine. I mean, we're Sendi beings. We only perceive 3 dimensions of space and linear time. But theoretically, the 11th dimension is where all forms of existence can connect. They can be compatible, and they can even transform into each other. Some physicists describe it as the fundamental ground floor of reality, a place where space, time, energy, and maybe even consciousness can actually change form. They aren't stuck or fixed like we usually think. Now here's the truth. There's no experimental evidence for the 11th dimension. Yet, but mathematically, it seems to be that missing piece that could connect all the big theories we have. Everything from gravity, all the way to quantum mechanics. So, do you believe that the 11th dimension actually exists? Maybe it's just a mathematical tool. Or maybe it's the key to unlocking the universe's greatest truth. And if you're still sitting there right now, watching this with a ton of questions buzzing in your head, you are definitely not alone. Scientists are right there with you. And you know what? That's exactly what makes the journey of exploring the universe so absolutely magical.